UNPAVED, Sean Salisbury here. We're bringing authentic, real stuff to you. Hardcore opinion.
Sean Salisbury, former NFL quarterback.
29-year-old Sean Salisbury, his second start as a National Football League quarterback.
Hey guys, welcome into UNPAVED. I am Sean Salisbury, Adam G. Sager on Twitter. I'm at Sean Unfiltered on Twitter. We'll join here in just a second. Just a little lighting adjustment. You know, nobody needs a spotlight on them. And we are still more knowledgeable about policy and government than AOC will ever be. That's the way I start the show. But really, in truth, we start the show with Gary Patterson and the USC Trojans. And yes, I'm a little bit flagship them up, man. When you want your information about the Trojans, Houston Texans, and all the hot stories around the National Football League, NBA, college basketball, it's all here. But we start where it matters. Have you ever noticed when a certain player or coach come into a system, things kind of just change? And it doesn't always have to be the head coach. Matter of fact, I contend, and I've said it for years, that when you are looking for a great staff, when you're trying to evaluate as an alumni at the University of Georgia, at Southern Cal, at LSU, at Segg's Place, Michigan. When you are a fan, you're like, who's the new head coach? When you get a new head coach, like Michigan did to get Kyle Whittingham. The Trojans did a few years ago with Lincoln Riley, Lane Kiffin at LSU. We look at that and think it's just about the head coach. I can't preach enough that successful teams, kind of like your business, kind of like your small business, your brick and mortar business, your sales business, whatever it is you do, kind of like government, you're as good as those people that are doing all the work for the CEO or the boss. I know that boss had to do a lot to get to that point, but then it comes out, a lot of times it's the other guy, just like on the field. Sometimes it may not be the star. The stars have to raise up when it matters. But sometimes it's that utility guy gets a base hit, pinch runs, gets to third base, sacrifice fly, ball game over. Sometimes it's that defensive replacement in the seventh inning makes a diving catch in center field to save a win for the Houston Astros or the Red Sox or somebody else. And when you hire a coach, sometimes it's, oh, that coach is great. But if he hires coaches that are not threatening to him, that are yes men, you'll get your ass kicked and you will be fired within 5 years. And I know players matter too, but we've seen teams with good players and the coach just couldn't lead properly. It's the smart one. And all of us that get smarter when we say, okay, who did they hire? Whether it's the NFL, college, who did Lincoln Riley hire? And you start to look and you say, okay, a guy that's been a head coach and a damn good one. You say, whoa, could that be a threat to Lincoln's job? What if he's successful? And we see the change and they want Gary Patterson, the new defensive coordinator, as the head coach, as opposed to Lincoln Riley if they struggle and don't make a playoff. And if they don't make the playoff this year, there will be changes at USC, in my opinion. That's not a dog on Lincoln. I'm a supporter of Lincoln Riley. This guy right here in Gary Patterson, I'll say it every day for the rest of my life if I have to. This will be the best hire Lincoln Riley's ever made. Now, does that mean a national championship? I don't know. But I know as a former player and as an alum and watching college football and watching USC fairly, not as a homer, but through eyes of a college football analyst and as a fan, just liking college football. When you hire a guy like Gary Patterson, you have to have thick skin, not because of Gary, well, as a player, but as the head coach, not worried about, oh, what if they like him more? And you think, well, Sean, does that exist? Sure shit does. That's why the guys like Jimmy Johnson with the Dallas Cowboys hired Wanstead and Hudson Houck and Norv Turner, hired guys that he expected to be head coach. He wanted the best of the best. Saban did it forever. Ball hog the best coaches. You want to judge a coaching staff? Don't just judge it by the guy, the main dude. Judge it by the dudes he hires. So this could have been a invasive, I'm hiring Gary Patterson. What am I going to do? This guy is truthfully, he's a head coach that's a defensive coordinator in college football. I said it's the best hire, but I just get this feeling of shift. We haven't played a game. It's early. I get all that. There's a culture difference. Things are going to change there. I'm just telling you. This is the perfect part of Lincoln Riley. Of all the things he does, this may be his best thing. Finally getting the guy who says, here's what we're going to do. Cut him loose. The dude's spending, 74 hours a day when there's only 24 hours in a day sitting in a hotel. Study. Why? Because this is a guy, he's at the point in time, he could have mailed it in, Gary Patterson. Could have mailed it in and said, I don't need to do this. He took time off, waited. Could have mailed it in and said, nah, man, I'll just show up. I'm Gary Patterson. No, he's working like he's a guy with his first job trying to impress the head coach with a worldwide of experience. Segs, let's bring you in, Adam G. Sager, to co-host. But Segs, I'm convinced, dude. I just am. You saw it happen to your Wolverines. Yeah. You saw it happen when they bring in great assistants. What happens? Because the head coach can't do all the work, and he's done all the work in his career to get to be the CEO. And now that he's not, you have to have people not just like-minded, but you have people that challenge it respectfully. And what I love about this tells me there's a maturity in Lincoln Riley, who's been a hell of a play caller and offensive coach, that says, what am I going to do, not just to preserve my job, but to elevate the Trojans and myself and our team to another level? And Segs, since he's been hired, we've talked a lot about it. I've kind of scoured in my mind, who would have been better? There's guys that are really good, but they're under contract, getting guys that are. But Gary Patterson's got the perfect mix of old school toughness with new school understanding about the player. And he was not in a rush. Desperate teams or desperate coaches equal a bunch of losses and you get fired. This is the greatest helpmeet and shoulder-to-shoulder guy he's hired for that very reason. And Lincoln Riley's hired because Gary gets it. And the mix means I just have this feeling, Segs, and I haven't had it in a long time. Even when Lincoln got hired, I said it's going to be better. But I looked around and said, okay, do we have that core we need? Not just players, but coaches to keep a core there. Gary Patterson, the ability to bring Gary Patterson in feels like Lincoln Riley has taken maturity of, I'm not threatened by anybody. I've got a gig. I'm a head coach at Southern Cal. What's going to keep me there? See that cat right there? Best hire. And I'm telling you, this is as important a hire as any five-star number one recruiting class you got. Gary Patterson elevates that, and I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of talked about the amount of time that he's spending at the building. He's living in the USC hotel, and then he says, quote, I've been going in around 5:30, 6 in the morning, and I get home between 8:30 and 9 at night. It's a 24-hour job, 7 days a week. I didn't come for the sun. If I'm going to spend time raising other people's kids, I'm going to do it at 110%. And you love that because that's the old school coach in him that's been the head coach that had to oversee everything, including trying to raise young men, which I don't feel like we hear enough from these new school coaches. It's more about, well, can I win? Can I win national titles? Not developing the best men that you can and then win with those great men.
Seg, such a great point by you. A lot of times coming, hey, we're here to win championship, dude. And they are. If you don't win, sure, you can raise as many good kids as you want. They'll find another coach. But what I love about this is the perspective of where the focus is. Where the focus is. These kids know going there what it's going to take to win on the field. I mean, they're going to have to put the time in, but they get an idea. It's all the periphery stuff. I can remember when Coach Robinson was recruiting me. When I signed, I felt like I had signed with a family member. Not taking it for granted, but a disciplined dad that was going to be my dad away from home. And I was only 2 hours away in Escondido to Los Angeles, right, Seg? So hop on I-5 and head on down to Escondido or head up to Los Angeles. And what I discovered while I was there, that man you see right next to me, Segs, there is nothing. Just by the way he talked and recruited me and was real to me, not promising me a starting job, creating competition, getting all over my ass when necessary. I think I've told this to you before, Segs. As you know, I run hot sometimes and passionate, right? And I played that way as well. And at times it was good, and at times it's like, damn, dudes, balls landed 8 feet into the stands because you're so pumped. I'll never forget we were on the practice field my freshman year. And I was the backup quarterback, and in the fall camp, and dude, you line up, Marcus Allen's behind you. Chip Banks is at the edge, Jack Del Rio, Dwayne Bickett, Roy Foster, Bruce Matthews, Don Mospar, Tim. I mean, you roll through guys who were Sunday players for a long time, and plenty of them have that bust in the Hall of Fame. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? That group of guys. And I'll never forget, I had missed a couple throws. It was one of those practices that my buddy Scott Tinsley, who was also quarterback, would like spit chew on the ball when I was having one of those days. We were going routes on air. Said, "Come on, kid," and he'd go Southern guy, and he'd spit chew on the ball, trying to get me out of my pissed off mode, right?
Yeah.
And he was just so good at that. But Coach Robinson took me just like similar to this. That was my freshman year in the Penn State Fiesta Bowl. I'll never forget it. But took me aside on the practice field, and at one time I missed the ball, and I go, "Fuck," one of those. And he didn't have a problem with the cussing. Shit, who does, right?
Right.
Hell, if you charted every cuss word on USC's practice field, hell, we would have and made $10 per cuss word. You and I'd own the university by now if everybody involved. So he took me behind after my rep, walked me behind the huddle about 10, 15 yards. And he said to me, he said, "Listen," he said, "You're the shits today." Quote, that's the word he used. He goes, Coach Robinson, "You're the shits. Okay, we understand it. You're the shits today. But you'll fix it." He goes, "But what I want you to understand, because this won't be the last time you're the shits." Coach Robinson loved that word. And he had his arm around me and he said, "What I want you to understand is those big fellas up." Coach Robinson, ask Eric Dickerson when ED went to the Rams and rushed for 8 billion yards. If Eric Dickerson would have had John Robinson as coach his entire career, Eric Dickerson would have put every rushing title out of reach, right? And ED used to tell me this, but I knew it when he talked about Coach Robinson. Yeah. Because Coach Rob wanted to run the football, bury you, and with those 5 guys up front, those were his guys. Those, just like Madden, what do you always say? Physical and offensive linemen were his guys, right? Yeah. Love those trench guys. Coach Robinson, those 2 were best friends. Those 2, he was Coach Madden's spotter at the end of when Coach Robinson was out of coaching and in the broadcast booth. And he put his arm around me. He says, "You don't ever want those 5 guys up front to think it was your fault. Not that you'd blame it on somebody else. You didn't have to say anything." He wanted those offensive linemen to think that because they're blocking, they don't see what the hell's going on down the field. Shit. They're trying to prevent you from getting mauled. So they're mauling some. You got to block Hugh Green or got to block somebody like that. Shit, that's a tough task. He'd say, and on our practice field, it was a tough task trying to block any of those sons of bitches because they're all Sunday players. Well, sure. He said that and it hit me hard, dude. It did, as if I'm 18 years old. And when he said that, his message was, you do not want to allow those guys to think that my quarterback's not under control or leading him. He wanted to think, let a receiver know he dropped it. They'll get over that. But they want to know every time you get in the huddle to learn those valuable lessons. And I learned it. Now, at times you still go through it, but I learned a valuable lesson about perception and what your teammates are thinking, where your mind is during a game, right? Yeah. And he taught me on the practice field, which leads over to what Coach Patterson's saying. And I looked at Coach Robinson and my mom asked Coach Robinson, he put his arm around her, she hugged him and said, "Take care of my boy." That's all my mom had to say. And my old man didn't have to say anything, and Coach Robinson did. He treated me fairly, but I always knew that the open door policy. So that old school, and Gary Patterson's that type of guy. You can walk in here, but we're going to do it right. And I am the father away from home, basically, to his defensive players. But make no mistake about it. What did your dad do when he does it his best, Segs? Your ass was disciplined and doing it the right way, right? Sure. And the respect. So it's not about like, it's respect. And I respected that man as much as any. And Gary Patterson will bring that same juice, but also the juice that also knows how to communicate with an 18-year-old. He has not lost that. This will be huge as that father figure to those guys. And he is raising your kids. And the coaches that don't think they are making a huge mistake. Gary Patterson gets it.
Yeah, and one more thing before we move on to CJ Stroud. Patterson kind of talked about the whole NIL thing and how he doesn't want to be a part of it. And he says, quote, "Yeah, here's the thing. I don't have anything to do with NIL. We got GMs for that. I don't have to deal with recruiting as a general rule, going out and doing it. I'll help evaluate players. I just get to coach defense. It's one of the things that I love." So I think that right there, that quote just tells you he doesn't even want that head coach job right now. He just wants to coach defense, put his head down, and get the best 11 players on the field in that given play with the right defense and go.
He wouldn't have said that 10 years ago, Segs, when why? Because immersed in the head. I think basically the message is this whole NIL transfer portal is a shit show, but I'm going to approach it a different way. Let the people who handle that get out. When the kids come in, I'll talk to them, but I'm here to evaluate my players, put the best game plan together, and maximize their performance on the practice field and at the game. He doesn't want to get into it because I got news for you. He's an opinionated guy, and Coach Patterson's seen the change through recruiting. He can't like it.
Right.
You know, Mike Elko, we'll hear from you talk about him a little later. These coaches don't like it, but they're living in rules that if the rule says you can do it, you do it. But if somebody doesn't step up and lead in the NC2A, college football is already different from what we're used to, and we'll never see what we used to see again. But man, we're headed towards fuck the slippery slope. We're headed towards disaster if it keeps up. And I think what Coach Patterson's message is, my focus is on the kids and winning games. You guys handle all the stuff that I don't want to. It's like politics. You don't want to discuss that stuff. He wants to coach football. And I think Lincoln giving him that freedom is the reason Coach Patterson's back.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be a fantastic duo, and it allows Lincoln to just kind of put the ball in Gary Patterson's hands when it comes to defense and not even have
stay
to
out of it.
worry
And
about
stay
it.
out
Yeah,
of it. And
exactly.
Lincoln hired a guy he doesn't want to have to compete against. That's exactly what he did.
Yes, 100%. All right, something we've talked about on this show, I think it was just last week, we were talking about the Houston Texans and CJ Stroud, and should they pay him what ESPN predicted, I think was 4 years.
Close to 60 or something, Six?
Yes,
like
I think it was
240?
$242 million or something along those lines, with like 110 of it guaranteed. Well, you had Todd McShay, who, is a big draft guy, but, he follows the leagues and he's got his ins around the league. And he said, quote, I'm told there's some big name QBs that are going to be targeted by other NFL teams, and CJ Stroud is one of them. Does he need a change of scenery? Be prepared for that. So this is where we go back to, should the Texans just kind of be listening? Should they be making phone calls on CJ Stroud? Where do you stand at the moment, as we are just, a few days away from the combine? We got free agency starting in about just under a month, maybe like 3.5, 4 weeks from now. What's your feel right now with the Houston Texans, CJ Stroud, and which way should the Texans be looking when it comes to the quarterback?
If you're not entertaining every call that comes in about CJ Stroud, doesn't mean you have to love him. Doesn't mean you have to talk long. If you're not entertaining, I almost thinking about the Billy Bean Moneyball situation. Forget the money part of it, the name of the movie. Remember when Pitt's in there going back and forth and got this call, hold on this one, get this guy on the line.
Yeah, right.
You to try and upgrade his roster for a less expensive price. Okay. Now, it ain't going to be less expensive when it comes to quarterback play. It's if you go get somebody, it's going to cost you, especially, and if you decide to keep him, it's going to cost you. I'm going to tell you, you'd be doing, matter of fact, it would be blasphemous or football malfunction or dysfunction if you didn't at least answer that call or make calls on behalf. Now, I don't know if Nick Caserio and D'Amico Ryan sit in there and say, it's a no-brainer. This is the franchise quarterback. What I've seen the last 3 years, rookie year, a lot of franchise quarterback material with CJ Stroud. The last two, franchise with that, we're at like FAR right now, or FRA, should I say, Segs. With the NCHISC right now, that's still, we haven't finished spelling it now because we've erased some of those, right? Because he's taken more steps back the last 2 years than he's taken forward. Now, that does not mean, because I will stand up and raise my hand after his rookie year, I said, they don't have to touch a quarterback for 10 years. I didn't expect the regression we've seen. And we have regressed with him. And so is he, whether it's pass, I don't care the reasons, he's regressed. Now, then you'll go in and watch him hit 8 in a row, Segs, throwing that deep dig right, and you're like, this guy can play. I know he can play. Right now, am I prepared to tell you for $55-60 million, $240 million for 4 years, and 70% guaranteed or whatever, that he's going to be playing in February? The answer is no. Can he? Yes. But am I like, and there's no guarantees, but I think there's a quarterback that I'm thinking of that gives me closer to a guarantee. So I'm entertaining everything. CJ Stroud, the hell of play. It's not personal. It shouldn't be for the organization. And if they love him, as I've always told you, Segs, anybody else, if you like him, you better entertain it. If you love him, then sign him and move on, and we can all bitch about it or cheer about it and say, that's our guy. I would be awfully careful after these last 2 years to decide to pay him $60 million a year, say, you've seen enough great to tell you he's going to get you to February, because isn't that the whole goal? I ain't about feelings. I'm not in the feel-good business. I'm in the business that gives me the best chance to win. So with CJ, I'm a believer that he's really good. I'm not a believer that he'll be playing in February yet. And that defense is February ready now. So you got to ask yourself, how much different is this picture going to look if I sign him for 4 more years? And why do I have to be in a rush to make that decision this offseason? He ain't going anywhere. He's under contract.
Right.
That's part of it, Segs. But I can tell you this. If you're the Texans, and you don't entertain, then you are doing your franchise wrong. Doesn't mean you have to pull the trigger, because I ain't pulling it for a guy. I am pulling it for Joe Burrow. Oh, Sean, what about the injuries? Well, I'll take that chance, because if, let's say you made the swap and it worked out, I don't care whoever's in there, it's Hendrickson, whoever you throw in, and 2-for-2 swap segs and a 2027 first, however you get to it. Let's just talk Burrow and Stroud. If I tell you today they're both playing a full season and both are on the Texans, who you starting and think gives you a better chance to get to February? Matter of fact, I'm on the verge of telling you, if they were able to pull that off, because Burrow, the things going on in Cincinnati, he's been banged up. Maybe Stroud needs a new venue. Is it there? I don't know, because he's in a little, I don't want to say the doghouse, but there's questions about him that didn't exist 2 years ago. I'm going to make you a guarantee right now. If Joe Burrow's the quarterback here in Houston with that defense, getting Tank Dell healthy, that's a top 2 team to get to the AFC Championship game, to the Super Bowl. I'll bet you under Joe Burrow's contract in the next 4 or 5 years that the Houston Texans are playing in February. And while I think Burrow's here, Stroud's climbing and was climbing, took a few steps back, flashes of brilliance, but franchise quarterbacks if those flashes come to fruition on a regular basis, I don't like ifs, Segs. Burrow, and there's an if with Burrow, if he's healthy. That's the only thing. If Burrow is healthy and plays me 15 games, he is as good a pocket passer as we have in this league, period.
For sure.
So, and he can buy time. So I'm going to tell you this, a healthy Joe Burrow, I would inquire and see how bad the things are in Cincinnati. And if I'm Cincinnati, I would call about that if you're willing to part with, and Cincinnati's probably going to want more than just CJ Stroud, but that's okay. But if I'm the Texans, you say, what step are we away? A couple healthy players, some nasty bitches up front on the offensive line where they're knocking people out, and that position there. CJ, if he's consistent, plays like a rookie, we got a chance. But I know one thing, when he's on the field, Joe Burrow is as good as we have in this league, and that includes Stafford, that includes Lamar, that includes Josh Allen, different reasons. The Houston Texans immediately become. Now, I don't know if it's ever going to happen, but if it's me, Cincinnati would have been my first call to see if I could get it out. I'm just telling you right now, they're a February team if Joe Burrow plays.
Joe Burrow would be furious. He leaves Cincinnati where he has 0 offensive line and goes to Houston where he has 0 offensive line. He'd be like, damn, what are the chances that this is the team that trades for me?
But I got news for it. His team in Houston would be a lot better than it defensively than his team. Gives him a better chance. And something's got to give with those injuries. And listen, and Stroud is a good player. He's a good player. But the question is, Segs, are you convinced that he's a February guy? No. But I can tell you who is. Burrow's a February player. Well, he's already proven it.
Yeah. And maybe that's something we can continue to look at the rest of this week. Look at that trade. What other trades would make sense for the Houston Texans when it comes to CJ Stroud? Because like you said, it's all about that defense being Super Bowl ready. All right, we're going to look at the franchise tag window open today. And it's through, I think, March 2nd, I believe, is the window where you have to tag somebody. So we're going to look at 7 players. We're going to run through them, get a minute each on each player, and we'll tell you if should they or shouldn't they when it comes to their current team franchise tagging them. And I'll just tell you the number as I say the name. So we got George Pickens with the Dallas Cowboys. The franchise tag number for wide receivers is just over $28 million. Should the Cowboys tag George Pickens to keep him and CD Lamb together with Dak Prescott and have one of the best passing offenses in football, or should they let him walk into free agency?
And Segs, with that, I'm going by this, that we're not worried about if he gets a long-term contract. Right? We'll deal with that. Just should they or shouldn't they, right? They absolutely should. Because the Cowboys are used to dealing in chaos, and Pickens brings a little bit of that. They got another receiver that does the same thing. It's almost like they operate better out of it. Just it's going to happen, and it's a wide receiver. But there's no doubt there's not 5 guys more gifted than him. For the franchise tag, he had a Pro Bowl caliber year, and if you can control 90% of the headache, Pickens brings the talent there. They absolutely should franchise him, because one's not enough, and we've already seen that. A second one is. You keep those 2 together, and then the Cowboys got to get the rest of the shit. Don't let receiver be the reason why you can't keep moving on. Give me an absolutely they should keep him and keep him in Dallas and franchise him.
All right, let's go to Indy, where we got a couple players, but let's start with the quarterback, Daniel Jones, where the franchise tag is $47.2 million.
Segs, that's a bargain with starting quarterbacks now.
It is.
Think about it. It's a bargain. What I saw in him, the health, obviously getting back healthy, but he's been pretty durable in his career. I saw a jump in his belief. And considering out there, okay, what's the options? Going to go draft somebody? For now, for that contract's sakes, considering you're not paying $70 million, you'd have to start all over. We know the quarterback, the starter's not on the roster, not named Daniel Jones. I would absolutely do it, Segs. I would for the year. Why? He's still under 50. The guy was playing great football until they started to go a little south, got banged up, and then all of a sudden he gets banged up. But I think he earned the right. And if I came to you and said, hey, man, a playoff team's got a quarterback making less than 50. I know it's obscene for us to think this, but considering what I saw, and Indy's pretty friggin' close if they get healthy, I don't know what else you're going to do. You're going to get Russell Wilson? You're not getting anything better than that. Give me, unless you go trade, but you're going to have to give up a ton of assets to get a CJ Stroud or a Joe Burrow if you traded for him. And Tua, right now, if I said Tua or Daniel Jones, who do you want in Indy?
Yeah.
Agreed. Should they or shouldn't they? In this situation, considering $40+ million being a bargain for a year, but I wouldn't sign him to a long-term deal right now, Segs. I'd make him earn it through the franchise tag and see what he's got. I say they should.
Yep, that's exactly what I was going to say there to end. Make him earn it in this one-year deal. Let's stay in Indy with Alec Pierce, the wide receiver. Just said $28 million.
I would prefer you sign him to a long-term deal and get off this thing. That's the one. I know we weren't talking about it. 28 million. I don't think I can pay him. Now, hey, yards per catch, Segs. He does some great things.
It's really
but
good.
You're putting him in rarefied air now. And he may end up being there. But for me, this is the one where I say, no, I wouldn't. He'd be out for that price. But if you could get him over the course of an extension and lower that price, that monthly, that yearly salary, Segs, but for 28, pushing 30 mil for a guy, while a really good player, and I think has got a chance to be pretty special in the league, and he's proven that. But he's not in the Chase, CeeDee Lamb, Puka, that Jefferson class. That's just too much to go with the franchise. You're going to have to let that one go unless you can sign him long term. I wouldn't.
Yes, I 100% agree on that. Let's go to Atlanta with Kyle Pitts. The young tight end, the number is just over $16 million. He hasn't really done anything until boom this year, and that scares me. But $16 million, would you do that for Kyle Pitts and Michael Penix or whoever the quarterback is there in Atlanta under Kevin Stefanski?
Segs, when I was looking over, and I do like now they got an offensive coach, okay, and they got players. I'm looking for a new triplets, right? If Penix is that guy along with Bijan, who's silly good. And then you got a guy like Pitts and Drake. They actually got the four-pack, Segs, when you add Drake London to it. I don't want to break it up. And here's another thing, Segs. The tight end position is so valuable on mismatches. It's like the guy who can stand up on both sides as an outside edge rusher, play in space, cover play. They can play the run. Those guys on the offensive side, the ability for Pitts to line up at wide receiver, come in and play tight end, motion. I can do so much with him. I actually think that they do need to do more with Pitts when it comes to, Kyle Pitts and getting him, deploy him in different ways. For $16 million, and no one I've seen teams that have faltered when that position does not function right. Segs for $16 million, I got to do it because as far as skill set goes, he's at the top of he's as good as anybody. I got to maximize that. That'll be upon the quarterback and the coach. They've had so many changes. I'm going to say, should they or shouldn't they? They should. I want that offensive unit together. I'll work around it. Because if you decide to let Pitts walk, they'll be standing in line around the movie theater to get him, brother. I say you should. I'm a fan.
Let's go to the Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks and Kenneth Walker. The running back number is $14.186 million. They have Jacques Charbonnet, but he's going to be coming off the big injury. What do you do if you're Seattle coming off the Super Bowl win?
You have to. I'm not sure I'm ready for a long-term deal. I got to see that too again. But I love his burst. I love his attitude. I don't think you ever have to worry if Kenneth Walker is going to come fat and out of shape and not be ready to play and take what happened, take a Super Bowl MVP and this is normal. I don't have to work anymore. I almost feel like he's the guy that would work harder and want to validate that. You got a good thing going, Segs. You know how I am, and at times maybe emotions get into it. But when I got a good thing going with the core of my players, and people will say, oh, I can get anybody to play that position. Well, he was a Super Bowl MVP, and it kind of goes in with, well, he may not be Robinson and he may not be Saquon Barkley, but he is a Super Bowl MVP and elevated. If you want a little comfort level for the guy at quarterback who needs that position to be great so he doesn't have to play hero, meaning Sam Darnold, I think it's a small price to pay for your suit. Now, it's not just a Super Bowl MVP reward. It's what he's going to bring in 2027. I think it's worth the risk. I'm not willing to pay him that for 5 years. I am willing to take the shot on one, Segs. Yes,
And
he should.
real quick, per Adam Schefter, it looks like the Seahawks will lean not to put the franchise tag on him.
Oh,
Maybe
I don't
they'll
think
try and
this
work
is my
on it.
opinion, right, Segs?
Yeah,
Not their opinion. Yes.
Right. And so that is what Schefter's saying. And it could be they just let him walk into free agency and go to the draft and maybe look at a second round, third round running back to come in and
more than likely,
you will
Segs,
get Zach
even though
Charbonnet
last
back
year
at some point.
and you make a great point, we revalued the running back position the last couple years.
Yeah.
Henry and Barkley and McCaffrey. But anytime they can try to devalue it in the NFL, they will. They think that it's a disposable position. If Charbonnet gets hurt and you let Kenneth Walker walk, you're going to find out how non-disposable it is. It's risky. I don't think the Seahawks will do it. I'd want him in there. Now, if Charbonnet was completely healthy, it'd be a different story, Segs. We're coming off an offseason. To me, I just think Kenneth Walker earned that right, but $16 million for a running back, some are going to think that's too steep. But is it life-changing if some guy's making 11 as opposed to 16? I think it's a harder position to get that production for 17 games than we think. I would do it. I don't expect Seattle to do it, though.
Yeah, real quick, I think this will be an easy one. Breece Hall, the running back for the Jets. I mean, if you're the Jets, you can't franchise anybody. You need a whole new roster. Your roster sucks. Why would you franchise tag a running back unless somebody has told you we'll trade for him? But even then, it's just like, get rid of that money, get him out there. He'll be a free agent. He can go anywhere he wants, try and win. And the Jets need a lot more than just a running back, in my opinion.
Yeah. Now, if we went over this list again, Segs, is that okay? Now let's go over what that team's going to do. Yeah. It's going to be different than what I say. I just understand. I'm looking at it from a fan, media, but a quarterback position as well. But this is an easy one. This is the easiest of them all. Breece Hall's a very talented player, but you can't pay him that kind of money.
Yeah.
And especially if you're the Jets, is it 3 down, bell cow back? But I'll tell you what he's going to be, Segs, when he walks. He's going to be a valuable asset to somebody as another guy to strengthen your backfield. And who the hell knows when he walks, maybe that team we were just talking about jumps all over him if they let Walker go at a cheaper price in free agency. So both running backs are probably gone. The Jets is an easy decision. They're 10 players away from being 10 players away.
Yeah. How about our only defensive player on this list? That's Trey Hendrickson, the defensive end from Cincinnati. The number there is $26.7 million.
I love him, but I don't think he's going to be in Cincinnati.
No, I agree.
I think about the hassle they went through to sign him.
It's been
it's been a pain, and they'll go through it again because he's been their best defensive player for a while now. I think that comes down to Segs, and even if you did sign him or you franchise him, you might want to work in a way to see if you can move him. I think he'll be part of a package to move. I don't really want to just let him walk, Segs. I'd kind of like to get somebody interested in him. You know what I mean? But I don't think that's going to happen. Plus, Cincinnati's commitment to that side of the ball, kind of like the offensive line, they pay about 4 dudes and the rest walk. After what I saw last year with Trey Hendrickson and all the hassle of getting a deal, trying to get a deal done that he went through, my opinion is I don't think he'd mind playing somewhere else. And in Cincinnati, if you want cheap for the most part, that's what you'll get. Trey Hendrickson's in another uniform this year. I like him, but I wouldn't do it. And I'm leaning for him wouldn't do it because if I'm him, I'd want out too.
Yes, 100%. All right, let's go move on and talk about Augusta Precious Metals.
Yep, we got a great guest, and we're fortunate every single month to be able to do this. Gold and Silver has been making a lot of noise out there, guys, catching attention like an unknown team. And our listeners are asking why, and we're glad to have Devlin Steele, as we always do. He's the director of education and such a great teacher and informer of this at Augusta Precious Metals. He's back with us to make sense of stuff that we can't make much sense of. Devlin, great to have you back. We've seen gold and silver move way up, then pull back. What's happening with gold and silver right now? Just in simple, plain English, it's great to be with you, my man, and happy 2026.
Happy 2026. Great to be back. I love listening to you guys. A lot of what you talk about is relevant to gold and silver. But to begin with, gold and silver are incredibly exciting right now. I mean, they soared in 2026. Yes, we had a pullback, But the pullback is a time where, think about a team where they're going through injuries and they're working those injuries out and they're getting stronger. And after a resting period, what is a consolidation of price, they are back on the field and surging and winning again. And that's how I feel we're at with gold and silver. We had an incredible run. We pulled back. And the reason for those pullbacks are not have to do with physical gold and silver. It has to do with the financial markets and the margins that they get to bet on only putting a percentage down on gold and silver. And then the industry changed the percentage and they didn't have the cash to back up their positions, and it created a sell-off. In addition to that, Kevin Warsh, who is Trump's new nomination for the Fed chair, is completely different than what the markets were expecting. He's someone who is a QT guy, meaning quantitative tightening. He wants to reduce the balance sheet, meaning less cash in the system. So think about it in terms of everything you were just talking about your players and the salaries you're going to pay. Well, QT means that the salary cap was just reduced. So now everyone's anticipating having less cash to work with, and they're scrambling their positions, and you saw stocks go down, you saw a lot of things happen, but gold and silver is sitting in a very strong position right now.
Devlin, we talk a lot of sports on here, and you made a football reference as we do often. So you got your defense, you go out and build a defense to make that run towards the Super Bowl, and I guess Seattle was pretty good at this year, right? They're damn good and go win that thing. So with that, in the context of retirement, how should people be approaching precious metals in their, not only in their portfolio, but in their approach to protect themselves?
That's a great way of putting it in perspective, because think about your positions where you're looking to get maximum gains as your front line, your offense, your stocks. You're looking for those multiple gains. You're looking for those winners, but you know that you don't always win, and things happen, and there can be problems with your offense. And when there's problems with your offense, what do? You rely on your defense. Gold and silver are going to be, especially for retirement holders, your defense. You don't have to make a lot of money with gold and silver. Gold and silver have been making people a lot of money, but the goal is actually to protect yourself. It's kind of like hoping that your defense gets, all your scores through defense.
Right.
That they, take the ball and get into that end zone.
I mean, kind of like the Houston Texans, have the defense go and score all their points, but get no offense from it. There you go.
You want both. You want the offense and the defense.
Right.
And you shouldn't be relying on your defense to do your scoring. You don't have to rely on gold and silver to make you tons of money, but you have to rely on it to hold your position, hold your purchasing power, be your hedge if something happens with the dollar, with interest rates, with inflation, that you're protected and you have that defensive line. And that's what gold and silver is going to do for retirees.
Devlin Steele, he is the Director of Education for Augusta Precious Metals. A couple more minutes, and so kind of him each month to come on and give us updates, but also educate us, and Lord knows we need it. Devlin, for me, real quick, is I get people to come up to me, and like I was before Augusta Precious Metals came into my life, and I did a deep dive and looked into precious metals, and as an amateur, people come to me now, and I had the same feeling of, man, I'm a little afraid. And maybe the afraid of it is the lack of knowledge of it. And that's why we have you on. So when somebody comes to you, and I'm sure you've heard all the questions, hey, man, I'm afraid to dive in. Why shouldn't I be? What's your answer?
My answer is, I don't want to convince you to dive in. I want you to learn. So I was listening to you guys talking about the salaries and what a quarterback should get and everything else, but you've spent years and years watching them and understanding their qualities and understanding what somebody is worth. Me as an amateur, I couldn't tell you how much a quarterback should or shouldn't get paid, or should you keep them, but I can go to you and you can break it down for me. Well, my team can break it down for that person who's got questions. We run these web conferences that's pure education. There's no sales involved. We invite you in to really break it down for you, take you into the film room and show you what's happening with gold and silver and why it's so important for retirement. So I'm not going to say anything to anyone about here's why you should get into gold and silver. What I'm going to say is your financial future is dependent on your knowledge and your education, and you should get that education. And Augusta Precious Metals offers that education.
And you know, a lot of people lay the scare tactics. That's not the tactic Augusta Precious Metals or you. There's no need for scare tactic. It comes into just the education gives them a better chance, all of us, to make the decision we were just talking about. So based on education, we're a better place to go than there. Devlin, with you.
Absolutely. Listen, we use the term financial advisors, but financial advisors only advise on stocks and bonds. Coincidentally, that's all they sell too. So, you know, what are they really advising on? They're not advising, you're not getting the education on gold and silver. And gold and silver is proving to be helping retirements, accounts, and retirees almost more than any other asset right now. So this is a very important time to get that education.
All right, Devlin, what's the first step for someone who doesn't want to rush into anything, but they want to be, you know, the educated part of it? What's the first step involved in this process? If somebody says, okay, Sean, I need the first step, what's the best way? And the first step, like a baby that's learning to walk, what's the first step they need to take?
The first step they need to take is to book a educational web conference with Augusta Precious Metals so that we can walk through what's happening with de-dollarization, the dollar's future, gold and silver, inflation, the economy, and really this K-shaped economy where the rich are just getting richer and richer and the rest of us are struggling harder and harder. And the most important thing to really understand is what you'll find out is not what all these talking heads are saying about the economy, how many jobs were created, how much this is going. I always tell people, don't listen to people, watch what they are doing, imitate what they're doing. And I'll tell you what central banks and sophisticated investors are doing. They're loading up on gold and silver.
One last question before I let you go, and thank you for your time. Again, it's Devlin Steele, and he is the Director of Education at Augusta Precious Metals. And hear what he's saying, folks, not just hear, but listen. What do you think it's going to look like in December of 2020? I'm just using the end of the year when we get to December, and I'm talking to you. What will gold and silver look like in your mind?
Well, there's a lot of things going on. Okay, what will Kevin Morse do? What will the midterms bring in? Are they going to loosen up the dollar and liquidity to really juice up the economy for the midterms? What are the politicians going to do? Where's this going to go? But the bottom line is this. All the analysts right now are projecting gold to $6,000 at the end of the year and silver to return back up into that $90, $100 range. Now, for the last several years, all the analysts, all the bank analysts have fallen short every single time, meaning gold and silver have exceeded what analysts had projected. And so I'm looking at positive returns for this year. I'm looking at 10 to 20% increases from where we are now. Again, this isn't financial advice. These aren't guarantees. You asked me about just what I see.
Right. Yep.
I've been pretty good at this. If you watch my videos, I've been calling gold and silver spot on for years and years and years. And where the economy is going, the dollar is losing power, and there are jumping treasuries around the world. De-dollarization is happening, and the buying of gold and silver by all the central banks and the authorities who really place positions isn't slowing down, and that really tells you something.
Well, of course, you don't. That's why we have you on. Only experts coming on this show, brother. And when it comes to this, you are the expert. Again, Augusta Precious Metals, it's your premier gold IRA company. He's the Director of Education. And if you go on and book one of those seminars, you're going to find out exactly, this is the Cliff Notes version. Wait till you get a load of a guy who's been dominating in this gold and precious metals and silver market for quite some time. Again, Director of Education, Devlin Steele, and we'll talk to you next month, brother. And we always look forward to having you on. We appreciate your expertise and insight.
I love it. I love learning from listening to you before I come on, because it's really interesting. Because
the feeling's mutual.
Those salaries and everything you talk about, you can really just put the economy in there, and you'd have an economic conversation. So I love it. So
there you go. And we feel the same about you, and we look forward to it every time. So I appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks. That's Devlin Steele. He is the director of education, and he is brilliant at it. And he has, and I've watched videos. You go back and watch him. He's been spot on for a long time, Segs. That's a big jump when a guy's at 10 to 20%. Pretty impressive. So thanks to Devlin Steele, and thanks to our great folks at Augusta Precious Metals. You can go to SeanBiceGold.com as well. Pop on in there and read that free Gold IRA guide, and then get yourself booked on one of these. You do it to everything else. Why in the world wouldn't you do your due diligence on this as well? As we roll on, Segs.
Yeah, back to college football. Texas A&M head coach Mike Elko was on with J.D. Pickell. I think he's with On3 at this point now. But he was talking about the state of college football. And here's what Mike Elko had to say about college football right now.
Your educational background, I feel like you're the best person to ask this question to. If I said, Coach, there's just one thing you can tweak about college football to take a step towards fixing it, what would be that one thing that you're changing about the sport as it stands right now?
Put somebody in charge. I think it's a $1.2 billion industry with not a singular voice in charge of it, making decisions for the betterment of college football. And I think until we get that, we're going to continue to flounder with some of those areas. And so, what's best for the SEC isn't always what's best for the other conferences. What's best for the other conferences isn't always best for the SEC. And at some point, we're going to have somebody who's capable of making rules regarding the betterment of college football, enforcement of rules, and all of it. And again, until we get that, I think we're all at risk of this thing not lasting like we want it to last. And so that would be my piece.
I mean, he's 100% spot on.
100% spot on. Segs, and when he says we're at risk, a lot of times, Segs, when you're building, whether it's your investments, a company, a team, you want to see the ascent, right, Segs? You want to see the ascent. We were seeing that in college football for a long time. Then we went haywire. And we're no longer on this, Segs. We're on this right now. The question, it's a lot easier. Listen, swimming upstream, but it's a lot easier to climb and hold on than it is, because you climb step at a time, you can fall four rungs of that ladder. And we are it's not just dangerous. Mike is, and Coach, I think, Coach Elko is being a little bit conservative on that. He knows that we are at a very, very critical point in this whole thing. Not taking all the money away from kids, not the transfer, but somehow regulating and managing it. And as a dad of a really good chef and a restaurant, partner and manager on a handful of restaurants, and watching what he's done in my son Dylan, and seeing chefs, we have too many of them in the kitchen. The problem is most of those chefs are shitty when it comes to college football. Voice here, voice. Think about the most reasonable voices, Segs. Mike Elko, John Calipari, Tom Izzo. You hear every day. Now, they still jump in and get involved with it. Even Dabo, who's resistant, but I know why Dabo's resistant. We get an idea there's certain, that he lives by. Dabo's one that hasn't quite adjusted to it yet. And the other guys have, because, the rules allow us to do it. But just because you're within the rules doesn't mean you like the shit. And so I think Coach Elko is spot on. I think we're in a danger zone. I think leadership's not popular because you got to do stuff that hurts people's feelings. So it's great leaders. That's why we talk about number 23 in Chicago. What a great leader. Mike didn't care about hurting people's feelings. Right. But I got news for you. When it mattered to get something done, the respect factor is, I remember what 23 said. Or you can go to Peyton Manning, any of them. Being a prick, and I don't mean a regular, but sometimes you just got to have that. There's a different feel. And we need that in college football right now. We don't need to pander to, get the kids and empower the kids. It's only about the kids, or pander to the coaches. It's only about the coaches. We need the guy who's going to set a firm foundation that's, no. We're headed in a direction that's not good. We still want to do some of these things, but we are going to eliminate the things we don't want to do. And then when 15 other chefs, now you're out, dude. You ain't part of making this decision. You're going to have to either clean house of those who don't get it or find new leadership, because all these voices that are chattering about it, and the NC2A not doing anything, Segs, I don't even know who we go to lead. We're going to conference commissioners to lead the NC2A as opposed to the NC2A. So really, the Greg Sankeys, those are the guys. The problem is they don't get to make the huge decisions, even though they're running the most powerful conferences. So for me, Coach Elko made it simple. Give me the guy who's stepping up and basically, as I paraphrase what he said, a guy we can get answers from. And name me the last time you went to a restaurant and 4 chefs were making your mac and cheese at some steakhouse with your lobster mac and cheese. No, it's one cat doing it. Okay. And you get too many ingredients involved, and then we can't come up with a decision. The problem is we're in a communication business that doesn't communicate. And they just let it go. Sags, I don't even know how we got. We woke up one day and the transfer portal was nuts. Yeah. I don't even remember them meeting about it. You just said, well, what? It's like you go to bed and you say, did it rain last night? It was 70 degrees when I went to bed and it clear skies. And you wake up and it says, did it rain? That can't be that much moisture on the ground. And you're like, yeah, it rained. Oh, I had my sprinklers on too. And I made that decision. I mean, same thing here. We got to stop the waterfall from, it's not just flooding, it's breaking the dam, Sigs. And the dam is cracked big time. One more big flow and that thing's going to crack. College football is not at its best. I can argue the players are great. The college football leadership right now has never been worse.
Yeah, I mean, you can argue that the 2 most powerful people are Big Ten Commissioner Tony Petitti and then Greg Sankey, the SEC Commissioner.
Not an argument, Sigs. It's a fact. Right. That's a fact.
And therefore means the Big Ten coaches are the most powerful and the SEC coaches are the most powerful. I mean, and this kind of just leads right into our next topic of the Big Ten wanting a 24-team playoff instead of the 16 because it's more teams in, it's more money, it's all this. And what does this always come back to? It's just that green dollar bill. How much of that can you get? And it's right now with the power that the Big Ten has, especially being the last 3 champions and Petitti basically kind of making big decisions along with Sankey and what's best for their 2 conferences, while the Big 12 and the ACC kind of just have to go with whatever because they don't have the power right now.
The Big 12 and the ACC are hosts at the restaurant. They ain't the chefs, brother.
Right.
They're leading you to your table, and then the chef's making you eat it.
Yes. And maybe they have like a sous chef that jumps in to the top, like in the playoff or something. But overall, they're the host. When the hostess, when you walk in, you tell them where you want to sit. So yeah, I mean, I think with the 24-team playoff and the power structure that Mike Elko's talking about, the college football playoff really kind of has the power when it comes to this playoff, but they're listening to Petitti and Sankey about what's best for college football. So it's a big cluster, right now. And until somebody is put in charge of everything, it's going to continue to be chaos.
Segs, it went like this. It would depend on Petitti or Sankey. And then it was Nick Saban until he went into college football. Yeah. I mean, to broadcasting when he got out. That was the order of the power play in college football. Regardless of what we say, it just was. And you are so right about the coaches. I'm not sure that whether you're at Vanderbilt or Missouri or whether you're, at SC, I'm not sure those coaches, like you said, aren't the sous chefs you're talking about moving down. Then we finally get to the NC2A. That can't be, your governing body can't be 20. They can't be 24th of the 24 teams getting in the playoffs because guess what? They ain't winning a national title. And along with this, Segs, well, I understand, I know the reason. Money, greed is at the top of all this. It brings countries down. It brings marriages down. It brings relationships all over the place. It brings businesses down. The greed, no question, every day. But the thing that concerns me is I want you to put money aside for a second. And I know we can't put it on the back burner because money drives all this shit in politics. I want you to give me one reason outside of money that 24 teams works, that it makes college football better. If you can give me one reason, we'll end the show right now and I'll be done for today.
It doesn't. I mean, I'm a fan of the 8 team. I want 8 teams and that's it. 16 is too many. 12 is too many. 12 I can kind of get by because you're rewarding the best teams in the country with a bye. So I can kind of get behind it, but 16 to me is too many. 24 is way too fucking many. But to me, if I were deciding, if I were that guy that Mike Elko put in charge of everything, it would. You
mean the decision maker who's not afraid to make a good decision? Yeah.
It'd be 8 teams, and that's where we sit. We're done by, the national championship is always January 1st. We get this shit done. And then we can move into the transfer portal and coaches, moving and doing whatever they want to do. But the chaos of what Mike Elko's talking about, the fact that nobody is there making these decisions, just continues this chaos year.
Think about what it cheapens, Segs. I mean, I know that, I mean, the regular season isn't as valuable, right?
Right.
I mean, it's still valuable, but they'll make an argument. Although I'm still watching it with regard to the value, I'm going to watch it because I love college football. But just in enhancing
3 lost teams,
right. And if we have 24 teams, 3 lost ass kickings are getting in more than one.
5 maybe.
Right. That's exactly right. So, and then once you get in, Segs, yeah. And if you have 16 teams and we don't do bye weeks, the only advantage you get is you're playing the 16 seed at home, right? So, and you try to you parlay this thing out. Of course, it's about money, but we can't let money continue to be for the betterment of college football, because the more money they make, Segs, then what are the kids? And eventually, a union for the kids is coming. You know that it has to. So when you get to that point, what's the argument going to be then? It's just simply, I'm a part of the NFLPA, Segs.
Yeah,
we get to fight it all, right? The more you make, the more we want, the less we want to work.
Yep. And
we are at that. It's not even a fork in the road, Segs. We've already taken the fork we don't want to take. We've already taken it.
Yes.
The problem is that fork you don't want to take, unpaved, can end up being a great one as long as you don't let the terrain fuck you up. And college football has allowed that to happen. And why? You just think it's so simple. Let me grab Nick Saban and say, Nick, do your stuff on Saturday or Sunday, talk college, or Saturdays talk college football. But I need you to run college football. A guy like that doesn't care what you think about his decisions, that's seen it all, that you go do your thing, but we need you to run the NC2A. We need a voice like that isn't afraid of backlash from somebody, isn't afraid to lead and have people not like him. This isn't about like. It's about what's best for college football. And right now, what we're doing in college football is not best for everybody. It's best for some people at some times, but it isn't an enhancement of college football. We're not maximizing what college football is supposed to be. And anybody else other than the money that thinks we are ain't been watching the game I'm watching.
Yeah, it's something that we'll just continue to monitor because, the way college football is going, it doesn't seem like anything's going to change yet. But
what are we doing in 2030?
To the playoffs.
What are we doing in 2030, Segs?
I can't even think that far ahead, Sean, because so much is changing year to year, let alone thinking about 4 years down the road. And that's way too
They can't run their own nose. How the world they're going to be thinking about 2030? That's a hell of a point by you.
Sports is just insane right now. One more thing I want to throw at
you. Sports is supposed to be the outlet, not the headache.
Yes, right.
It's become the headache, not the outlet. I mean,
you want to talk
college
about
sports, Segs, you know what it was, Segs? I know pros is a pain in the ass. It was the Tylenol to fix the friggin' headache, right?
Yeah.
College sports was. Now, we know what it is? It's the extra drink that forces you to have a friggin' hangover. And we have got to find a way to get it done because, to me, college football and college basketball, I mean, I used to sitting down, it's like, I can't wait. Now they're like, we just added 8 more teams, or, well, if they go 24, we added 12 more teams to a playoff. Great. You mean 12 teams that have no shot at winning the national title in football because of the attrition and the depth they got to go through to get there? Yeah, no, man, it's not good. As much as I love football, I don't need 24 teams. Shit, I'm not even begging for 16. If you put 16 in, put a cap on it and sign something that says it's in place till 2070. Okay, leave it alone.
Another quick thing to just talk about how insane sports are right now. Before we'll talk real fast. Houston losing last night to Iowa State, and then our bet of the day tonight. But I saw today the Philadelphia Phillies have signed an agreement or made an agreement with an 11-year-old. With an 11-year-old named David Basabe. He is out of Venezuela. He's a shortstop, Sean. He's 11. My kids are 10, about to be 11 in about 6 months. That'd be like my kids signing for $1.8 million. The MLB has its own chaos year after year with teams only spending $40 million and some spending $700 million. But yet now we've always had this in the Caribbean, Venezuela, into South America. These kids signing it mostly 15, 16, 17. We get
That's
some
still
outliers
awfully young, but I get a little 17-year-old. I get it.
We see that stuff because they get in these academies now that all these teams have down there, and they get to see these kids. But this kid is 11, and will sign. I mean, he can't sign till 20. I think it's 32. So I mean, he's got to make it another 6-7 years before he can even sign
So
the
they
actual
so they have
contract.
their rights. They have his rights at 11.
Yes, he is committed to the Phillies for $1.8 million.
So how's that not fundamentally
insane?
I want you to think, and he may end up being a great player, Segs, but how does the kid get to live? I mean, so basically he's no longer a kid at 11 years old. He's got to start thinking like a pro, huh?
Yeah.
That's what he said. And now let me ask
He'll
you
stop
this.
going to school. He won't go to school anymore.
Right.
And
think about the attitude.
He will take
Think
English.
about it. You're an 11-year-old.
And play baseball.
Yes, right. And I don't really care if and he may have great parents. He's going to need them. I get you. May parents that whatever it is to be leaders and to show the way and to make sure that an 11-year-old has an understanding of how whoever mentors or parents are at 11 when you're raising your kids, get off the couch and put your bowl of cereal away, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Sakes, how do you expect this kid to be lead a normal life? Well, that money doesn't mean shit when it comes to leading a normal life. Matter of fact, the earlier they get it, the more dysfunction a lot of them have. What are you telling? What's the message here? And I'm thinking, okay, 11, great, you get his rights. How do you know, Segs? When you played Little League, when I played Little League, hell, good, man, playing shortstop and pitching, you're the star, hitting cleanup. Back then, cleanup wasn't a 2-hitter or 3-hitter. You would hit cleanup, played short and pitch.
Yep.
Now I want you to think back when you were 11, Segs, and think about some of the other guys that you saw at 11 that you said, that kid's he dominated your league. Yep. And when he got to 14 on the high school baseball team, never grew, didn't start, was never heard from again. Now, this kid's obviously different. I've never seen him play because he must have the glove of Ozzie Smith and a bat that's hitting the ball 420 feet at 11, right? Okay, I get all that. But things change so much between now and then. And now how do you get to be a kid in life? Well, he's from Venezuela, Sean. It's different. Well, it doesn't matter. He's still 11. And even in recruiting here in the States, it's like, when does a kid get to go and have pizza with his buddies and not worry about it? And then how do you act normal? How do you get treated normal at a $1.8 million kid at 11?
Right.
This is not the way it's supposed to be. Unless there's something, and I'm not a doctor and I'm not a psychologist, but does this have a good ending, Segs, at 11 years old with $1.8 million? And you got to wait 6 more years or 7 more years for you to be able to actually put him in play. It's absurd to do it to a 6th grader that, we're offering him a scholarship, which we've seen in football, the maturity level and everything else. How can we even applaud this? Good on him to get paid, but how do you applaud this? You can't.
But again, he doesn't even get paid. He might get a little bonus or something at the beginning, but he don't get paid.
But he knows what's waiting. What will 1.8 be when he's ready? What will the value of that be? Buy gold and silver. He
could be worth $10 million. But also the other caveat to this is the MLB's pushing for an international draft, which will they haven't decided if they're either going to lump everybody into a draft together or do a U.S. draft, like they do now, and then an international draft separate. They haven't decided. They're still working that out. That's what MLB wants, which would then take this and make it a moot point because they would lose the commitment and all that.
And Segs, you know what else? Rules, I'm okay challenging rules. Sometimes rules are made to be broken because they're absurd. We've seen them, right?
Yeah.
But laws, I don't know if you're allowed to institute law, but there should be a law against this. I know he's from a different country, but I'm talking about you come over here, you're going to play baseball. There should be a law. You should not be allowed to secure an 11-year-old.
You should have to be in high school.
Yeah, well, I would love him to finish his multiplication tables at 11 years old before he got to high school. What 11 years that puts him in a 6th grade. Segs. He's in the 6th grade as an 11-year-old.
Shit, hit puberty. First. That kid might not have hit puberty yet.
Yeah. To me, how is that? How do you live a normal life? Because put it this way, there's a better chance at problems than there is at not at 11 years old when you parlay it out 20 years from now. I hope we're wrong and I hope he's great. But the problem is if he's great, Segs, guess what? If this stays like it is, how many times they're going to spend all their scouting money over there sitting there watching Venezuelans or Central America or in Mexico watching Cuba, these great players play and plucking them at 9 when they should be playing on their Little League All-Star team.
Yeah.
Come on, man. Making more than the Pops would earn over here. It's like, it's nuts, Segs. And how do you appreciate money when you're 11 pumping out 1.8? And it's not the kid's fault. What's he supposed to do other than go try to play good baseball?
Yeah.
So And can you do? And can you turn him into a better player at 11? Are you going to be able to maximize development with the kid and get everything out of him you want to get out of him? But he's going to be coached by some little league guy, Segs, tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
He ain't getting coached by Philadelphia at 11. Nuts.
Right.
Absolutely nuts.
Last night,
well, we both did that bet last night.
Yeah,
I took the over in Houston, and it was close. And Houston was curb stomping him for a minute, and Iowa State went on the run. And you took the under at Iowa State. You got it because they won by 3. I took the over and Houston, and they lost by a 3-point play. I mean, by a 3-pointer. So yeah, we did split it. So, but interesting. What a game, huh, Segs? What a valiant, great effort by Iowa State at home to come back and win that game.
Yeah, it was a fun game. Showed some, Kingston Flemings from Houston is arguably a top 5 pick.
Freak.
He's going to be at the top of the draft along with Boozer and Smith and a couple of these other guys, Dybansta and Peterson. He's that good. But Iowa State, they're feisty. They are a feisty team, and to come back against that Houston defense, were they down 9 or 10? It was near double digits late in that game, and they fought back. And that kid hitting that 3 in the corner, where the Iowa State kid, I can't remember his name, he caught it and shot it almost simultaneously. Like the ball didn't come down. It was
one fluid motion, say.
Yeah,
talking about catch and shoot.
A lot of times you see that where it's a catch pump fake, so the guy flies by you and then you shoot the 3. Not that kid. He just caught it and shot it. That was incredible. I showed my son that this morning before he went to school. I was like, that's what you need to learn right there. That catch and shoot, because that's incredible. It's kind of
like a quarterback's release. The windows that you throw into space, get that ball up and out. Segs, what's interesting about this too is Iowa State, you mentioned the scrappy and the rest. This is a top 5 team in the country that we're going to call them scrappy because that's the way they play. But in truth, this is a very talented team that's capable of winning the whole thing. But they also have this feeling, this blue collar feeling about them that I like. I didn't like the result because I'm a Kelvin Sampson guy at Houston, but also a good lesson at this stage to understand there's a good chance you may run into that team again. You're going to run into both of them in the tournament, but they may see each other again late in this tournament with 1 and 2 seeds along the way. Segs, was a hell of a basketball game to watch last night.
Yeah, and then tonight we got another top 7 matchup. Number 1, Michigan travels to Purdue, number 7. Michigan's a 2.5-point favorite. Sean, I saw a stat today that kind of blew my mind. Michigan, if you take all their single-digit wins and their loss, which they have 1 loss, and then all their double-digit wins, and keep them as wins and the single-digit wins as losses, they'd still be leading the Big Ten. That's how dominant they've been.
So if they'd have lost all their single-digit games, they'd still be number 1 in the Big Ten.
They'd be 12-3 in the Big Ten. They're 14-1. They've only had 2 single-digit wins, and then the 1 loss to Wisconsin.
So, Segs, is that concerned? Let me ask you this: Are you concerned that if it gets, in the tournament, a lot of closer games, you play better competition, but in the Big Ten, you're playing good competition all the time, like the game against Purdue tonight. Are you concerned, just from your vantage point, that you can look at it both ways? Well, they just dominate people and they kick your ass, right? Or are you concerned that if it comes to that they're in a bunch of these close it's not a big body of work when it comes to one because they're beating up on people? Are you concerned that that their guts will be able to handle that if they see a bunch of them as we roll on to the Big Ten tournament and into the NC2A tournament? Or no concern at all? You just think they're kicking people's ass and it won't matter?
I think we've seen enough times early in the season and later in the season. They had a 2-game stretch early in the season, Wake Forest and TCU, not real great teams, and they found ways to win the game, probably when they shouldn't have. Then they played Nebraska at Nebraska, and who's a top 10 team, and fought to they were down in that and fought back, won late. And then
so you like their fight to be able to do this too, Segs. It's not just a pretty team. They know how to with that substance, right?
When shit's not going right for them in that Northwestern, in the Penn State game, where Northwestern was winning by 14 points or whatever it was with 12 minutes left, and Michigan ended up winning by 12. So it's like they can turn it on, and they're that good that I think they know when they got to come ready to play, and they know they can kind of turn it on when they don't. And I think that's, while you don't want that, you just want to go out and pound teams like they have a lot. But we'll find out.
Answer that by kicking everybody's ass, and you don't have to
Yeah.
worry about it, right?
Right,
Yeah.
right. I mean, UCLA, that was a close game at half, and they won by 30. So, and the good thing about them is it's not that they have to outscore you. They will shut you down defensively. They only gave up 18
This is my
points
favorite thing about them right now, Segs,
UCLA.
because that's going to travel for them in the tournament. Aside from talent, the defensive end doing it will be big for them.
And we'll find out. You talk about playing a lot of close games close together. They've got Purdue tonight. They've got Duke on Saturday. Then they play Minnesota, which should be a win. Then they go to Illinois, to Iowa, home against Michigan State to end the regular season. So, I mean, there's not a tougher schedule left in the regular season for anyone in the country. They're the number one team. If you come out of that 6-0, I mean, they're going to be negative when it comes to national champion futures. That's how good they will be looked at. But
No
I mean,
so with that, Segs, 2.5 points. I think in Wisconsin will be tough and they'll play physical.
Purdue,
but I just think say Wisconsin? No, we were talking about they played them earlier. The Purdue game, which is always, they'll lean on you with big bodies and they are well coached. Hard place to play. But I think it's a close one, but I do like Michigan in the game. But this isn't a blowout, Segs. This is inside. This is the 3 or 4 point win, but I would take Michigan with this and lay the points.
Okay, yeah, I'll take Michigan as well. 157.5. I like the under in this game.
I do too. Matter of fact, for me, the under feels easier to pick than the spread. Yeah. But I like Michigan. I don't think it's a blowout, Segs, and I think Purdue will hang around. I just think Michigan's talent shines through, get a couple stops at the end, and they win this by 3-pointer and a field goal tie. I mean, a 3-pointer and a free throw, like a 4 or 5 point win for them on the road.
Yeah, and I think
it is at Purdue, right? Segs, they're playing at Purdue, right? Yeah.
Yes, and I think that's one other thing about this team. They love playing on the road. They love the fans screaming at them and then walk in there and kick your ass. And
most good teams do even like it more, Segs. Why? Because that's a good way to shut them up without having to say a word, right?
They can
I always like that as a player.
The negativity more so than even being at home and feed off the energy. You feed off the negativity, and
no doubt.
That's why you're one of the best teams in the country.
And Purdue will show up tonight. You and I both know that.
Yes. Yep. All right. That'll do it for today's show. Make sure you tune in every single day. We're the flagship show of USC football and Houston Texans coverage. Go to YouTube at Unpaved Sean Salisbury. Like, subscribe. Working on getting a member portion of YouTube where you can come in and get a little bit of extras as we move on throughout this year. You can follow
that
him
will
at
happen.
Unfiltered. Yes. Me at Adam G. Sager on Twitter. Thanks to Bailey and Laura, all our viewers and listeners. We'll be back tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern, noon Central. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Peace.
Unpaved, Sean Salisbury here. We're bringing authentic, real stuff to you. Hardcore opinion.
Sean Salisbury, a great NFL analyst, a former NFL quarterback.